Do you ever wonder where your food comes from? That's what got us started on this adventure.
We talk to everyone we can to answer the question, what makes the Comox Valley food scene so special? Join us on our culinary exploration of this edible valley.
Hi.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Edible Valley podcast. I'm chef and host Jonathan Fraser.
I'm Darren Howlett, the co-host.
And I'm William Stringer, and I'm the producer, and the camera has just switched off again.
Let's just keep going. We'll see what happens on the other one, and we're going to work this out eventually. But today, we are going to start talking a little bit about dieting.
Okay. I thought we were talking about being sardines. I feel all squished here up amongst you guys.
Well, we're trying to do something along those lines, but maybe I'll slide out a bit.
Okay.
I can no longer see John.
There we go.
There, does everyone feel a little bit more comfortable?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is no social distance.
No,
Well,
sorry.
we're in our bubble, so.
We just ruined
We are.
COVID.
So today, as you can see, we're trying things with video. It seems to be an ongoing effort, and we'll have it nailed pretty soon.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is start putting up our podcasts on YouTube so you can take a look at our wonderful faces as we speak.
Yeah.
Yes, we've tried. Let's all sit very, very close together
And it doesn't work.
because it just feels really weird and
Really
unnatural.
awkward. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's get to the topic at hand.
Dieting.
Dieting.
I gotta throw this out here. I've never been on a diet. I've never restricted. Actually, sorry, I've restricted myself from one thing, and that's only been recently, and that is sugar.
Interesting.
Well, that's a good thing to restrict.
I don't know if I've ever, I don't think I've followed a diet per se. I've followed some guidelines.
It's
I
obvious.
have read of other people doing things and then did something similar. Well,
We need that on video. You missed that. I said, he's like, I've never dieted. And I'm like, it's obvious.
yeah, it's true. And
sorry, Darren, that was horrible.
No, that's fine. I've followed a couple of things. I've never actually actively dieted, but I would say out of the three of us, if anybody were to say, have any of you tried a diet, you would have to say it was me.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, Yeah. Well,
Okay.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
there's just so much to talk about here.
Yeah, for sure. Let's unpack it.
That was my brain malfunctioning because there's so much to talk about. So what that little thing that I just said was all about is Darren is planning a YouTube series,
Yeah.
and you seem to have all your ducks in a row, and you're
Yep.
ready to go with this, and it
Yeah.
sounds really good. That's what I was talking about.
Sure. Yeah. So to speak to that for just a second, I decided that I wanted to try to improve myself, and that included losing some weight. So I decided to try to document it, and not for anything of any great interest, but just why not? I'd like to see myself if there's, noticeable improvements. But, I sort of was sitting around, I'm like, oh man, I've got some COVID weight, as I'm sure a lot of us do right now. And just a second, we're getting the producer is
Just to let you know, you can cut this out. There are questions over there if you want.
Oh, okay.
Just so we're on a
form. No problem. I'm just going to try to relate it to somebody that might be listening.
No,
and then
perfect.
We'll jump back to it.
Continue.
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
We'll start back where we were in a second.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect where we are. I'm just making sure that it
Right.
will have a formula.
Okay.
That follows.
Yeah. So I felt that I've got a little bit of COVID weight, as I'm sure a lot of us do, and that's on top of maybe a little cook. I got a little excited with the cooking for about a year there. Put on a little bit there.
Well, you did some great photos, and that's someone's got to eat that food, right?
Yeah, and then the year before that, I left my day job to just do my own pursuits, and I felt like I kind of put on a little weight there. So I'm sort of got some layers here that I'm ready to shed, and I figured that this would be a great, fun way to do it. But then that brought up the question amongst us about dieting, right? That's why we're here today.
Well, and I think, I feel it too, and I know living with Will, he feels it sometimes too. Those moments that you get like you start losing energy, and you start eating unhealthy, and you get into those moments of, you know, grabbing food, and instead of actually thinking about what you're eating, it's so easy to fall down that road. And I think all of us could probably take a moment just to reflect and, you know, look at what is going into their body. Yeah,
absolutely. What I'm going to be doing is what I did last time, which was the only time I've ever done anything. I don't even really consider it a diet. I considered it a challenge. And what I did for a couple of months was eliminate sugar and anything really that your body converts to sugar as best you can. So that was dairy, that was alcohol, that was any sweets, that was carbs. And just really focused. I wasn't exclusive, but I focused on just proteins and vegetables, and I allowed myself outside of that, but I really focused on those. And I was in great shape. I was pretty trim, and I figured, why not go for that again? I know I was capable of it before, so.
Right.
So what sort of calorie deficit were you looking at? So the average for a man is 2,500. I think a woman is 2,000 a day. What was yours?
I want to say that I was shooting for between 1,650 and 1,700.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a steep calorie deficit.
Yeah.
You should have been seeing 1.5 to 2 pounds off a weight a week. Okay.
Yeah. And one thing that I found that I'm definitely, you know, that a mistake that I fall into all the time is I don't drink enough water. Back then, I made sure I was drinking liters of water a day, which not only gave me the benefit of feeling more full, but also just helped me lose that weight faster.
Yeah.
Because just constantly flushing my system, right?
Well, I guess we should get onto track here.
Yeah.
And we want to talk about what is a diet.
Sure. I think,
like, how do we start that out?
From
like,
the top.
What defines a diet?
I think a diet just means anytime you're consciously determining what you consume, right? And you can put a name on it, like whether it's a restrictive diet, which is what we generally talk about when we're talking about dieting, where we're eliminating things or we're capping things. But I think just generally terminology. So anytime this is sort of the breadth of what we consume, that's a diet.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how we follow through. And it's funny to think about how many different types of diets there are, whether you go for, you know, the Atkins, or you go the paleo, you do what are some other diets out there?
Keto.
Calories, keto.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's sort of like it's really hard to navigate and try and figure out what works best for you.
Yeah.
And why eat that? Yeah, eat by your blood type, you know? Like there's
yeah.
all those kind of diets. The Mediterranean diet.
Yeah.
We could probably sit here and ramble off for hours. I mean,
so many.
I always get hit with these things on YouTube that say, "Hey, you're eating the wrong food." And I'm like, well, I don't understand this. And I guess, what does it come down to? Does it come down to calories? Does it come down to what you're eating? Or is it...
I mean, I would first of all take a big step back and examine the word diet. I think it's like a Trojan horse. I think it contains with it the good things such as a reasonable calorie deficit, but also things that can, like, when you say diet, you instantly, for most people, feel bad. It's like, I'm on a diet, so I am going without stuff that I should go with, and it's bad. It's kind of, if there was a scale of good to bad, it's a bad thing. And why do a bad thing? I actually like the more traditional term of diet as being my diet. Man's diet, woman's diet, the diet of an animal. It's the things that you consume. I feel like, to use Darren as an example, when you say that I'm on a diet, you're sort of saying something is wrong. But with what Darren said just now, he said life took me in these few directions. This happened, this happened, and this happened. And I would add restricting calories into just something else that happened. I noticed I was a little, bit overweight, so I dropped down a little bit. No big deal. Nothing bad has happened. It's life. It's normal. And by doing that, your mindset is in a much more positive place.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the other thing too, is like, I think that, not that we're still trying to define the term diet, but I think that people immediately, as you say, jump to that mentality of this is a negative thing, or they're countering a negative thing by dieting. But I think that, there's also, some people have a diet of this is what they can or cannot. Like there's restrictive diets that are, health related, that there's also, I don't know. I think that there's more to look at than just somebody trying to lose weight. I think that sometimes, as John mentioned earlier, quite often it can be about, just feeling better, having more energy. And that's the way I was before. I wasn't losing that weight that I had before, 10 years ago. That wasn't motivated by me trying to get to a certain physique or weight. It was me trying to find ways to have more energy in my daily routine. And it worked. And I would much rather, I would like to shed a few pounds, but I would be much happier just having that same level of energy again and gusto. But then that also could be part of aging. I don't know. 10 years ago I had more energy. Well, I think that that's the way it is for everybody, right? So
right, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what kind of plan have you got for when you move forward? Is it a specific diet, or is it a trial and improvement sort of thing?
No, I'm just going to go with what worked before when I was paying attention. So I'm going to go for that again, where I focus mostly on, vegetable and protein, and try to eliminate the others as best I can, all the other sort of food categories. But I'm not going to beat myself up for breaking it, but I'm also not going to let myself completely let it slide. There's a happy medium. And I know that there's a transition phase too, where again, you got to be easy on yourself as you're transitioning, because doing it all in one go is setting yourself up for failure. You're just, you're challenging yourself to fail.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
It's I had a friend who had this. I used to call it 2-week-itis.
Oh yeah.
And they would go on a diet, and they would do like Weight Watchers was.
Right.
I remember that one, and it drove me nuts because it was calorie counting.
Right.
Right. And so we'd cook a meal and be like, well, how many calories are in that chicken and that? And I was like,
yeah.
like, what did you add into that to make that? And like, how many calories? I'm like, I took this out of the fridge and this and mix it all together. And it was literally like, I think most of the work and the stress was trying to figure out how many calories went into that meal.
Right.
Yeah. So, sorry, I have butted in.
Yeah, no, go right ahead. That was where I was getting with.
It's really, really interesting. And there is so much to talk about here. But calorie counting, I think, is something, broadly speaking, that is quite good for a period of time. I would actually call it like a calorie audit. Spend a week or two auditing your calories. So I was mildly overweight for quite a few years, and in 2017 I just had an epiphany. It was just do it now. I could write a book about this, but I just started taking action and going on that journey. And I said I wasn't going to follow any diet. I was just going to start to feel my way, trial and improvement. I was going to document it in a diary, which is amazing because it's not a Dear Diary sort of thing. It's more of a write something down when it does work, write something down when it doesn't work. When you lose your way, you pick up the diary and you read what you did that works for you, that's written for you, and you do it again. And you know it's going to work for you. Now, a calorie audit was part of that process, and I find myself doing one of these every year or so, because you go on a fitness tracker. My favorite is actually called Lose It. It's a much more usable version of MyFitnessPal, in my opinion. And you audit your calories, and you're surprised over the year. You've added a bit of mayonnaise here. You forget every little thing counts, and suddenly you can find, how did I end up having that instead of that smaller thing, like a chocolate bar after a meal instead of a small piece of dark chocolate? Slowly these good habits fall away. A calorie audit will show you my gosh, I'm actually just constantly nibbling away at stuff. And that's not a bad thing, but you get to see the full picture. There are consequences. And that it goes up against the opposite emotion, which is one of not being in control, of going, why won't I lose weight? Why am I putting on weight? This is the answer to that. You can see it, and then you get to choose.
Right.
What am I going to use my 2,500 calories a week to do? Or if you're losing weight, maybe 2.
And here's the thing. It's like with calories.
Not a week.
A day. Oh, yeah.
You said 2,500 calories a week.
Oh, absolutely not.
That's
Sorry.
Just
I completely take that back.
Nobody followed that advice.
just to slip in, more and more scientific advice is if you lose weight too quickly, you've failed.
Yes.
You want to do it slowly. So
You'll
if your
do
body
damage.
was saying, if your body was saying to you, hey, are you on a diet? No, nope, nothing to see here. You don't want your body to notice. You want it to be very slow.
That's where I would say this 2-weekitis would happen, is because they go on a diet for a week and they'd lose a ton of weight because they'd go on this really strict and really limit their things, and then they're like, oh, I'm doing great, and then after the 2 weeks, then it'd be like, oh, I can have a cheat day.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it was like, well, no, you can't. You have to go like a month. And, and you don't have to do it dramatic. And you're not going to get instant results.
Right? I hadn't mentioned that too, this process. There was one that I did before, and I'm not going to quote it just because this is a popular like author and internet celebrity and blah, 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 blah. And I don't really need to like drive traffic their way. But when I did do this 10 years ago, I didn't get caught up that way. I had a friend that we all worked with that suggested it. He said, this is what I used, and it was awesome, and tried it, and it was exactly that. It was great. But that's the other thing, is that it's built in with cheat days, but the cheat days are still smart. So the cheat days aren't about just go nuts and ignore everything. It was like, stay within this caloric intake, try to include this, and this, which are things you've been omitting all week. And so there's a bit of satisfaction there. You're getting those things, but at the same time, those are serving a function. They're serving a purpose. They're helping with your metabolism. Just get you. It's like every week's a new plateau, and it's capped off with this. So like I said, I mean, I have no idea how it's going to work on my body 10 years later, but I know to go into it with, some caution, some ease, gently go into it, and know that it's got to be at least 3 months before I determine whether it's working or not. That's where you start to see, to me, that's where you see results. The other thing is ensuring that there's some light exercise every day.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was my next question before you jump there, was like, how do we do diet and exercise together? Are they something
let's start with the most important thing there, and that is the ratio and how important both are. Exercise is around 20, maybe 30% of the whole picture.
Right.
It is absolutely essential that you exercise, and that should include a degree of weightlifting, because your body stores energy in the muscles, and if your muscles are a bit more developed, that it will store it in the muscles and use it. If that muscle is not there, that will go to be stored as fat.
Right.
So that is just the way it is. But of all of your energy, and let's use Darren as a case study for this, all of your mind and total energy, you need to be focusing on nutrition, and then you need to nail down what exercise it is, be consistent, get on with it, and forget about it. Work on nutrition. What
I found, so I've, in various times in my life, I've had gym memberships, and there's that whole culture that I've never been able to commit to. I mean, I've had gym memberships where I've gone for a full year, but by the end of that year, I'm really unhappy. And it's not because my body is showing improvement, which it is. It's because I'm not happy with the culture. And I'm not discounting any gym's culture. I'm just saying that in general, things have changed over the last however long, but I had poor experiences. So that was one of my downfalls, is including exercise. But again, if we're going to name apps, I actually don't even know the name of the app. I'll look it up at the end, and maybe we'll put it down there. I don't know. We're not sponsored by anybody here, but I found an app that I used, and 2 years ago, it did wonders for me. And all it was I think it's literally called Workout at Home.
It's called Home Workout. I
Yeah,
think
Home Workout.
You sent
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And that's very good. Yeah.
I thought that was fantastic, and all it does, you're not buying anything from this app. It's a free app. You're not, they're not selling you anything. It's showing you what you can use at home, out of your furniture, and it's 10 minutes a day, and you just walk, and you set it. You say, this is what I weigh, this is what I want to weigh, or this is my age, this is my sex, this is my everything. You set it, and then you set your goals. You say you want to be trimmed or toned or fit or, muscular, and it takes you through the paces. And I did it, I got sidetracked heavily by a lot of things that were happening in my personal life over the last 2 years. But when I was using it, I saw fantastic results with it. So,
well, I used to live here up till recently, and when the pandemic started and the gyms closed, we spent a lot of time and energy getting a gym installed. A very good gym.
Most of our work was building a gym, let alone actually using it.
How did you find it, John?
What's that?
How did you find it?
I enjoyed it. I liked, because I honestly haven't had a gym membership since I was in my very early 20s, and I got one at the Kingfisher Inn when they opened the gym there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, so I was in there and I was working out and it was great and I really enjoyed it. And then one day they realized that it was on top of the spa and it made too much noise, so that they needed to move it to another location. And so the owner, Lucas Stiefvater, turned to me and said, John, you know how all this equipment goes together? I'm like, yeah, can you help me move it? And I said, no problem. I could do that. Not realizing that each one of those weights, that when you lift it over your head and there's 20 pieces of equipment and there's 200 or 300 pounds on each one, you're lifting every one of those above your head. Yeah. I couldn't move my arms for 2 days.
Yeah, I imagine.
I did it all in one go. So I kind of lost my interest in the gym after that, because I was like, this is just a horrible place that hurts me.
Literally some sort of body trauma there where you just can't go to it again.
So to answer, and I hope I might be coming across as sort of the person that's giving the advice. Everyone has their own way of doing something. I've worked out something that works for me. Yeah. And listening to Darren, I think your answer there is to do something, and if it doesn't feel right, do something else in the realm of exercise until you have found something that works with your life. Absolutely. A lot of people don't like gyms, and it's terrible because the marketing shows this is the answer. It's one answer. Another thing that I did last year, which was tremendously successful, is when the pandemic hit, I offered in the community to walk people's dogs as just a service. And actually, I still walk a wonderful dog called Lady, and I have an obligation to go out running with her. So that forced me to get out and run. There's just do something that works for you, and there is no way that there is nothing that will work for you. You just need to find it. When it works, do it again and again and again. Focus on nutrition.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that's all I was trying to get at with the whole gym culture, was just that I realized that there's, and I'm not trying to inspire people here. I think if anybody's more inspiring, it would be you there, Will. But I think that, I know that there's a lot of people out there that when you say, if you're going to diet, you also have to exercise. And the first thing they see is a gym. And they're like, I'm not comfortable going to a gym, either by the way they look, or they're not comfortable with enough knowledge. So they go in looking like they don't know what they're doing. And that's fine. And I understand that. And I'm just saying that you can eschew the gym entirely by doing things around the house or around your neighborhood that are going to get you just as beneficial results,
I gotta say, just from this area, right, how many organizations, there's dodgeball, can, adult dodgeball, there's frisbee golf out there.
Where is there dodgeball? That sounds fantastic.
There's a bunch of leagues in town that you can sign up on. Flag football.
Interesting.
They all through the sports center.
My dad, he's over the last few years become much more active, and he always had golf, but he always had curling, but now he does, a lot of hiking and mountain bike riding, and they go off on various excursions.
Because anything's better than golf.
Sorry. I'm really impressed that, as he's getting older, he's actually increasing the amount of activity he does in his daily routine. And that's kind of inspiring to me too, where I'm like, man, if my dad can do this, why am I not? You know.
See, golf to me is just a hangover, a sunburn, and frustration of spending $50 on balls in the bush, right?
I like golf. I like it. You take slow-paced activity and mix it with some physics and skill. It's fun. It's I don't know if I'd call it a sport, but it's fun.
It's getting out. It's getting out and walking and getting air, right? Like, and I think that's helped. We're getting away from dieting and going straight into things. But what would you guys say are foods that people who are looking to get into a diet should start heading towards?
I've already said what I feel, which is focusing more on your veggie intake and your protein.
I'm going to fly very, very similar place to you, Darren. If you're looking for ground zero and your home is nature. Now you can go a little way away from nature. You can go a long way away from nature sometimes. If the diet that you consume is good most of the time, then you can go guilt-free to anywhere you like every now and then, and it's so much better when it's guilt-free because you deserve it, and that's fine. But nature is ground zero, so look at preparing things yourselves. But you can prepare something I love, like a cauliflower cheeseburger, which involves cheese and everything, but get the nicest produce you can get the nicest cheese you can get, prepare it yourself, no additives, just make it yourself. If you're reasonably close to nature and understanding in terms of the consequences of the calories and the fat and the carb, and you're balanced in that way, you can do what you like.
Well, I kind of feel the enemy in our world is almost a little bit of those simple carbohydrates. So like sugars and white flours and all that stuff, because we have a very processed food meal in there, and those are things that we crave, right? Sugar is something we all want, like we love these things, but I feel like they're the ones that lead us away from, as you're saying, getting in that with nature, with like, those fresh carrots out of the ground.
Well, the problem is it is not a fair fight at all. It is okay here in Courtenay, British Columbia. We don't have too much takeout stuff. There's a big healthy food scene, farmers markets. But if you're in a city where there are so many choices, the marketing talking about this is healthy because it's got some lettuce, calling things crispy when they're crispy because they're fried. Everything has been thought through to bypass your decision making. So I would advise in this circumstance to undo that as much as you can. One lovely thing that I do is I bought a champagne flute from Value Village, and I've got a 1 teaspoon measure, and before I'm going to eat something like a chocolate bar or something that I really like, which is the Blizzard from Dairy Queen, I will measure out the sugar into that flute to see. Now all you do is the gram amount of sugar divided by 4, that's the teaspoon amount. It's actually 3.9, so it's just shy of a teaspoon.
But you make yourself visually look at what
every now and then. I've got the flute and a Kilner jar full of sugar in the cupboard ready to get out. If I'm ever going to say, I'm going to just do this, I'll measure it out. And your brain will start to see it as it really is. And then when you do go for that McFlurry or that delicious Blizzard, and it's a great treat, go for it sometimes. But you're doing it based on your decision and you knowing the consequences, you being informed. Now, Blizzard is, I believe, north of 18 teaspoons of sugar for a medium one. That is above.
And who gets a medium one?
Well, I mean, the snack one I believe is 16. I've actually underdone that, just because I don't want anyone telling me I'm wrong. But try that. Another one is hot chocolate, a popular. I guess we probably shouldn't be talking about brands too much, but all of these places are good in moderation. I love all these places that I'm talking about. So I will say it's Tim Hortons. I go there regularly with my girlfriend. We go for a walk and we have a hot drink, and she gets a London Fog, 2 teaspoons of sugar, no problemo. a couple of times a week. I have quit coffee after 9 in the morning, and I sleep much better, by the way. But that's led me to hot chocolate. And I just think this is where it's not a fair fight, because you think hot chocolate, you think your mum making for you. Imagine curling around the campfire with hot chocolate. And all these things, that is the reason if you are overweight, why you're overweight, because you're not taking in the facts, and that's why it leads to this confusion. I've got it on my phone, but I believe there's 9 teaspoons of sugar in a tin, and that's their published.
Isn't it? It's kind of crazy almost to even think about it, that how diets have changed over the years, how we went from the whole thing of that fat, eating too much fat was and then, saturated fats and unsaturated fats. One were better for you from the other, and then they look at the studies and they're like, no, they're actually the same. There's no difference. Yeah. And then we get, as we go through, how things change so much, and it's. I
think, more or less, I get what Will's saying, that when you had posed the question of what's the problem. And Will is driving more towards that it's marketed and the educational element. We don't focus on the education, and we're bombarded with the marketing, which sort of is misleading. But I to add to it, but also the underlying thing of what he was saying is, I think it's just processed foods in general. Is if you want to throw a blanket and say, what should I avoid as I get into this diet? Steer clear of processed foods. The more processed it is, the more you're likely to find excess salt, fat, or sugar.
I'm nodding. You can't see it, but I'm endlessly nodding. Yes.
Yeah, and do everything you can to do all your own food preparation. And that's not possible for anyone, even rock stars like us, who...
I cheat all the time.
But do the best you can.
Buy shares in Mr. Noodle.
We
or just
call it
before
ramen.
John discovered them. Ramen. Isn't it? Honestly, it's like, wow. Yeah. Quick, Costco, get some more in. John's on the way. But no, that is your naughty snack.
I'm allowed that.
Yeah, of course.
You're allowed one, right?
Everybody's allowed.
I've got maybe 2 or 3, but whatever.
Yeah.
No, I have them too. And that's the whole thing, is I'm trying to eliminate them. So I'm not making any promises, but that was the original gist of me doing it on YouTube, was that I was also going to show people how easy it is to cook at home. Not necessarily whole meals for yourself at all times, but some good stopgaps for when you're feeling like you're about to go get a Wendy's burger, or you're thinking about going and getting a chocolate bar or something. It's like, hey, here's something that's going to satisfy you. You can slap together really quickly at home. Take that away.
Well, maybe that's a question for our listeners out there. What's your nemesis out there? What's your dirty little secret that they will wreck a diet every time?
Yeah, and more so for me, for somebody that's about to embark on this, what are your remedies when you get into those corners, when you're blocked into that corner? How do you get out of it without succumbing to those temptations? I'm interested.
That is interesting. I almost want to kind of ruin that parade a little bit. The thing is, I like pot pies. And one of exactly. And one of the great things about living on almost all days just being really, really good, but is when you do decide to do something that isn't correct, like you having a weekend, you're like, I'm going to have what I want. You get to do that guilt-free. So it's not an enemy. That food, like the Wendy's Baconator or whatever, I love the Wendy's Baconator. I really do. Hey?
They have a burger called
They do, and Pringles are bringing out Wendy's Baconator flavored Pringles.
Oh my God.
The thing is, though, if you like it, you like it. It's your friend. Good times. That you can have that good relationship only if you're good most of the time. Then it can be part of a healthy diet, which actually sounds like something the fast food companies would say.
Don't punish yourself for having those occasions where you want to go out and just have something that, I always call it, what's that foods, carnival food.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like, it's just like all those foods are crunchy. Yeah. They get you in there and you're having fun and it's a good time.
I used to have a food truck and I used to do the carnival circuit. Well, not the carnival circuit, but I used to do the festival circuit. And it was like 1 out of every 20 would feature a menu that wasn't about deep fried.
Right.
Everything else was deep fried.
Really?
And that's what you want to have when you're out at a festival and you're having fun. Like, it's fun, but you can't live off that every day.
Oh, I got to try that.
Exactly.
Anyways, we're going to continually go off track here, I think.
Yeah.
So
well,
thanks, guys. Those were some great tips, and I feel like I'm going into this with a little more knowledge. So
yeah,
thanks.
we're looking forward to see how your body feels better and how you feel better about life going through this.
Great. Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks again for listening to another episode of the Edible Valley Podcast. I'm Chef Jonathan Fraser.
I'm Darren Howlett.
And I'm producer and fitness coach, William Stringer.
Woo! Thanks for listening.
Cheers. And that wraps up another episode of the Edible Valley Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and a special thanks goes to the local businesses that help support our podcast. They make it possible for us to showcase your local food community. We'd love you to follow us on your preferred social media at Edible Valley, where you can check out our blog, find recipes and tips, behind the scenes, and of course keep a lookout for where we are going to turn up next in your Edible Valley.